Up next in our community series, Security Woes. I think we've all have those. We're very excited to have Diana Burson here from Shopify. I think she's going to keep it lively.
I'll try not to fall off the stage. It's pretty small. All right. So I am Diana, and I'm an internal security developer at Shopify. I actually came here last year, and I presented on how I deploy Jamf in our open culture. We're very, very open, Facebooky, that kind of thing. And I'm going to sort of change the space now to talk a little bit about our security space, as I recently switched departments. So the agenda, start off with a little bit about us. I want to tell you about what Shopify is in case you don't know anything about us. And then I'm going to go into a little bit of our culture, because I think anything that we do, whether it's IT or security related, relies on not damaging our culture. Following that, I want to talk about our security framework. So we're building on a framework that's a little bit different than the usual, and I want to sort of start by introducing you to it. It was covered a little bit in the keynote, but I'll proceed to discussing it. And I want to talk about how we onboard new employees at Shopify as well in this environment. Following that, of course, I'm going to show some security tools, well, some tools that we use for security and device management that help us in our open culture. And then I will finish it off, since it's the last session of the day, and you probably are all very tired. I'll try to keep you excited with an epic story. All right. Hold on to your hats, everyone. OK, let's get through this. I'm going to start with something simple. Put your hands up if you've heard of Shopify. Holy jeez, I did not expect that. That's awesome. So for those of you who haven't, I want to first start off by saying we're not just an e-commerce company, an e-commerce software company. We are a platform. So we give you, or anyone, the tools to sell online, in person, on social media, out of the trunk of your car. We don't care. We are on a mission to make commerce better for everyone. That's our goal, and we're doing everything we can for that. So into the numbers, our merchants, well, we have over 500,000 now across 175 countries around the world. And of course, people to support that and build our platform. Over 2,000 employees now in 6 offices, but that's not including our very large remote team. And now I guess I should tell you a little history about me at Shopify, because I was in a different team when I came here last year. So I have been with the company for 2 years. And up until 10 months ago, I was leading the IT team in Toronto, this beautiful city. And I've come to JNUC now, I think, 3 or 4 years. And I used to introduce myself as Diana from Toronto. And people would be like, where's Toronto? I don't know. And yeah, believe it or not. So last year, I started saying Toronto, Canada, and people started laughing at me, probably because now everybody knows about Toronto. Thank you, Drake, I guess. I don't know. But anyways, so 10 months ago, I decided to move to this city. It looks like a wonderland, I guess. I don't know, but it's kind of cool looking. This is Ottawa, and it's where our head office is in Canada. And a lot less people know where this is, so I'm going to showcase a couple things because it's kind of grown on me now, and I think it's pretty. So first of all, it's the capital of Canada. Okay, it's not Toronto. Just let's get that clear. And we have some really cool landmarks, like the Parliament buildings, really beautiful, centerpiece of coming to Ottawa. We also have the world's longest skating rink, which people actually take to go to work. This is our Rideau Canal, and it gets turned into a big skating rink during the winter. And we also have this creepy National Art Gallery, which I walk by every day, and I'm scared every day. But it's pretty cool. Now, a new landmark that I like to mention is our office. We have a really, really cool office. And I want to make you all jealous with these beautiful pictures, because that's what I'm here for. So it's a really inspiring place to work. And we've put a lot of effort into building it like this so that people enjoy coming to work. And we also have some really cool people that come to our office to do some entrepreneur-y things. We've had Richard Branson join us for a panel on the Female Entrepreneurship Initiative with our CEO, Toby. We've had Prince Charles and Camilla this year, actually. This year was Canada's 150th birthday. So on Canada Day, he came and helped us launch 14 new Shopify stores. And of course, our very own dreamy Justin Trudeau, he's the Prime Minister of Canada, came to celebrate Computer Science Education Week, and he's showing off his panoramic skills here as well. It's pretty cool. He's so cool. Anyways, so as you can see, the theme is very heavy on entrepreneurship, and that's what we strive for. And it's probably because our initiative is to take the path that leads to more entrepreneurs. What I mean by this is that we really try to make things easier for our merchants, for anybody, and we remove roadblocks so that anybody can sell anything on a shop online. And this is exactly how we like to try to think internally as well, which leads me, of course, to culture. So this is not revolutionary stuff, but I'm going to go through it anyways. We hire talented people, and then when they come and join our company, we treat them like talented people. And what that means is we place a very high level of trust and autonomy in everybody that joins, and it kind of feeds directly into our 5 culture values. Yes, one of our culture values is getting shit done. It's true, and we do a lot of that. So I'm not going to cover all these because I covered a lot of them last year in my presentation. This year I wanted to focus a little bit more on a value that's not up on the wall, and it's very well known to us, and that is our default to open internally and secrecy externally. So we want information to flow freely in all aspects of our company, in all levels of our company. So rather than start from a point from where we choose what to share with everyone, we start from a point where we choose what not to share, which is not a lot. Everybody has access to our databases. Everybody has access to our board letters. Everybody in the company. And it's extremely important to us because we believe that trusting people with this amount of knowledge and having this deep level of information will lead them to make the best decisions for Shopify, right? And you'd be surprised how well it works. And of course, the opposite with that is defaulting to secrecy externally, which is pretty clear, right? We are that open internally, it stays within Shopify. And that's obviously a very important side to the aspect. Now, I don't know about you, but some of the security conscious folks, especially even when I started at Shopify, was like, whoa, like this is insane. How do you make this work? I'm not crazy. It's actually based on a framework that exists, and it's called Beyond Corp. And so what we're trying to do is build a framework like this, which a lot of companies with our open culture are adopting. It's founded by Google, and they have a lot of white papers that you can read online. This is what we're trying to build towards. It's something that's relatively new, even though the documentation's 5 years old, but it's something that's new for a lot of companies, and a lot of software developers are also building tools to adapt this. So the idea is to move away from perimeter security. We have a lot of remote staff, obviously, and we don't have VPNs. So instead, we want to rely on the trust of the device and the trust of the user's identity to give them access to our resources, our data. Well, the reason, like I said, remote employees, right? So I'm not talking remote offices or anything. I'm talking remote employees that work out of a coffee shop, out of their home, out of places we don't know that have an untrusted network, right? So that's why we're sort of trying to move to a different direction of securing devices and our data. So how do we onboard people into this type of environment? Well, I will go through it. This is a photo from our Ottawa office. This is just a snippet of the room. We onboard people bi-weekly, and it's a 3-day onboarding period, and it actually is held in 4 of our offices. The remote side of things, though, they have their own remote onboarding. So although they're not in this lovely room, they do have an onboarding for 3 days as well. So we like to think that we have a very human touch to onboarding. I think I've talked to several people in the last couple weeks that have told me it's the best onboarding they've been through. We do this because we want to get you involved into what Shopify is rather than hand you a laptop and say, go to work. So we have our culture team present about the values, who we are, our history, much like I did. We have a scavenger hunt as well around the office to learn about executives, to learn about the different teams that work in different offices. We have AMAs weekly, which are fantastic because any new employee can come in and ask whatever question they want and have the director of engineering answer the question or whoever. And we're very open to just asking whatever it is. And you can be anonymous. You don't have to be. It's fantastic. And of course, with this comes the laptop setup, right? And the security training. And that's obviously what I want to focus on. So I said devices and identity, right? So what I want is I want our security framework to have these two key parts, but I also want people to understand why this is important and how to actually help us do it. So we hold security training during our onboarding for this reason. We want to protect our data, so we tell people where the data is and what you need to do to protect it. We cover encryption, we cover strong passwords, two-factor on all accounts, how to deal with phishing, who to contact if your device gets stolen, or if you have just a simple security question. And this alone breaks that barrier of being nervous to ask questions or nervous that you clicked on a link that you shouldn't have. It's the easiest way to get people to understand that there's somewhere they can turn for an open line of communication. So it's what we're really striving to do. Now, we also right away explain what I explained earlier, where we don't trust our network. So our network in all of our offices, we treat like a coffee shop. So we have nothing on there. If you got in, you wouldn't be able to do much. And we try to tell people this as well. Our data is safe because of what they do and the fact that we put the keys to the kingdom in their hands. And this is probably why we also have a lenient policy on devices leaving the office. They can take them home. We only deploy laptops, so that would be mean if you had to leave it on your desk. So they can personalize them, do whatever they want with them. Really fun, all the stickers, so great, right? And it's awesome, like you sort of feel like it is your own, right? But kind of put a little bit of a mandate on it, and it was to remove your stickers when you return it to the IT department. This happened, and this wasn't the first time. But after this one, I sort of mandated that everybody has to remove their stickers before they get new upgrades, because there was a lot of swearing, and I muted it just for, being a little PG. It's ridiculous. Yeah, well, see, that's the thing, right? Device setup. We use DEP. It's pretty straightforward. For those of you who don't know what DEP is, read about it. I'm not going to spend my time. No, I'm just kidding. So it's a fantastic system that you can sign up for with Apple, and it just means that you have a lot of access to their servers to be able to deploy devices still sealed in a box and throw down all your configuration profiles, whatever you need in your environment. What we do with this is we build pre-stages with Jamf Pro. We enable File Vault and redirect the key to our Jamf Pro server, and that's about it. We leave the laptop sealed, sort of a win-win situation. People love opening a brand new box. And for our remote staff, we still image the machines because we repurpose them a lot, and now that I think our fleet is almost all DEP, we will be moving to pre-stages there as well. It's kind of nice, and it's way, way, way easier to manage. As for software, well, it's pretty straightforward too. We use VPP and Jamf policies for deploying software as needed. On enrollment, we do very few applications, Slack, Chrome, and a password manager. This is another big deal for us. We push this and help people understand what it means to use a password manager, what maintaining strong passwords should look like, having a phrase that you remember, and having crazy 32-character passwords in a 1Password or a whatever, a LastPass, is the best way to be secure. On top of that, we also give people a personal license, so instilling good habits at home equals good habits all around, right? So we really try to push that aspect of security. And of course, we maintain a very large library of applications in self-service, free ones. We also set up little requester buttons so they can request paid applications like Adobe or whatever. And on top of all this, we use Okta for our SaaS applications, which we have many of. And Okta also has an access request workflow. We empower whoever is sort of the lead on the project of the SaaS application to delegate approval and to give people the application access. It's really great, and it is just hands-off for IT. So that's a lot of tools that everybody gets as soon as they start at Shopify. They also do a bit of onboarding with their team and can install whatever they need for their environment. We sort of let them do that because it's pretty straightforward, and it works for us, right? But where do we go from here, right? I always try to think past right now, and I still don't like that I am manually making people reboot for File Vault, right? Nobody should have to do that. So I want to think further beyond this point of just using DEP this way and deploying a File Vault configuration. I also want visibility for all the people who have these laptops. I want them to understand what's being installed on their laptop and why. So we've decided that we're going to migrate to a lovely open source tool called Splash Buddy. This is an example that we sort of worked up on how we would like it to look. We're deploying all the software, but people can see what's going on. Little lights turn green when they're installed. We are installing our dev environment, which is another beast I'm not going to get into. We enable File Vault here, and once everything's done, it quits, logs the user out, forces File Vault to be enabled, reboot, and you're good to go, right? So it's on enrollment. It works with DP. It's not skippable, which is great, and you get that forced logout for File Vault, all as soon as the user logs in. So pretty neat. Who do you have to thank? Well, Francois. He has a repo, a public repo on GitHub. I highly recommend that you check it out if you're interested in a deployment like this. It really is helping us out, and it's making onboarding much faster. And he is constantly looking for people to help with making it better, so please feel free to reach out to him. There's also a channel on Mac Admins. I also want to thank James Smith. I've harassed him several times about how he's doing his setup at CultureAmp. And he's actually open sourced his repo as well for his full setup for CultureAmp. And it's beautiful, and that's what we built our design on. So they're actually both presenting on Thursday too. I highly recommend that you check them out if you like this, because they can go through it in depth. And I think Francois is also holding a session on like introductory to Splash Buddy, so check that out as well. Oh, I'm tired of talking. Okay, let's get through this. So now you know a little bit about us, how we onboard, type of security framework that we're trying to build on. But I also want to talk about the tools that make us do less of this. Both IT and security, I want to do less of this. I guess now it's less phone and more like typing on Slack or whatever, but still, it's the same kind of concept, right? So I've seen this before, but have you seen this before? Raise your hands if you've seen this before. Okay. Are you sick of me making you raise your hands? Raise your hands if you're sick of me. I'm just kidding. Okay. So what I mean by this is blank check-ins. It's annoying. And there's various reasons why it happens. For us, maybe somebody reinstalled the OS and they broke enrollment. Maybe we did a binary upgrade and it failed. I don't know. There's many reasons. But what it means to me is I don't have the ability to lock or wipe the device in a bad situation or on an exit of an employee. I can't audit the operating system to see if it's up to date. I can't check if it's fully encrypted anymore because I can't trust that information. It's out of date. I also don't have SSH on any of my machines at Shopify. I also don't have admin accounts. I am very, very weak and powerless in this situation. And it really sucks to reach out to these users on Slack or whatever, send a notification and say, you know, hey, like, can you do something about it? So we deployed Rich Stroughton's Casper Check for this, to solve this problem. Really, really straightforward. This is his public repo on GitHub as well. And it's a neat script with a launch daemon that basically tries to see if it can talk to your Jamf servers, right? Different kinds of checks that happen in the script. I'm not going to get into everything. But if it can't, it will pull down a quick add package and re-enroll the laptop. The quick add package can be hosted somewhere where your whole fleet can access it. For us, we have a cloud repo on S3, like AWS S3, and it works well for us. So we host anything that we need to drop down for machines there. And it's really easy to set up, so I highly recommend you also check that out if you're having that big pain. Yeah, so on the same lines, of course, in a security kind of world, we are worried about maintaining updates, right? And we all suffer with this. I think we suffer with it as well, but we can't force people to do it because of our culture and not wanting to break those values and not wanting to feel intrusive in a person's laptop. So I thought of a revolutionary way to get this to hopefully forever stop bothering us. It's revolutionary. You're going to love it. It's pop-ups. So great, right? It's great. Everybody gets pop-ups. Look under your seats. No, don't do that. But it actually works. This is an example of one of the pop-ups that we have. And it's actually really straightforward, right? Shows you some information. The best part, you can annoy your CEO and you still get buy-in for doing this. This was a conversation that made my day when I deployed this little pop-up. I showcased this conversation because it encompasses what I talked about earlier about being trusted to deploy something that you think will help security in my point of view, and I could solve a problem without having roadblocks. So, anyways, that was just a little tidbit. What I used to do this was a little tool that you have with Jamf Pro called Jamf Helper. I scoured Jamf Nation, looked around to see what other people were doing, as I think we all do when we try to find solutions. I don't want to reinvent the wheel here, so I was sort of looking for a solution that worked quickly and was easy to customize. So Jamf Helper, you can use the help flag here, and you can see all the different types. I'm so sorry it's so small, but sorry for sitting at the back of the room, I guess. But so you can see here you have a bunch of options. There's many more. It's just I didn't have space. You can even put an icon like I did, right? And it makes it nicer to look at. It sort of brands it a little bit better. So my script, pretty straightforward. I set some variables. I also was looking at the software version of the laptop that was running. I like my user to see what version they're on, all in one screen, and then I want them to see what version I'd like them to be on. And then I'm looking to see if they have the icon file that I want to use for that, for this specific notification. I used to drop it down alongside the script and whatever, but then I realized, why am I doing this? So I included it in the script. Then afterwards, I call Jamf Helper with my options, and I then wait for the user to choose. If they choose the release info button, it opens up the web browser and goes to the Apple support page so they can read about the security updates that have been done, because all of our users do that, right? It's good. It's great. One day. And if not, they hit OK and it just closes. You can definitely be more annoying here, and just when they hit OK, you can open up the App Store and really shove it in their face that they should update. But it's a way to get around the update situation. Policy side, we have I'm using parameters because I don't want to have to touch the script every time a new version comes out. You can modify these obviously pretty easily. I'm setting a minimum and a latest version just because 10.13 came out, and we're sort of in this weird middle place right now. And also the support page is there as well. As for your trigger and your frequency, well, I first start with a 1-week frequency. I don't want to get too annoying, but then I increase it as I go because I've had it with people on 10.10. And so you can do this to be, a little bit more obnoxious with your policy. Once again, why does this matter, right? So the tools that I'm showing you are pretty straightforward and pretty easy to set up. And I want to keep going back to the security framework, right? The bigger picture is that I have a security framework I want to deploy, and the device OS version plays a big part in allowing the employees to access assets, right? What we want to do is we want to create rules that determine whether a device is secure enough to access a specific asset. So what I like to call these is device trust tiers. And I'm building the device trust tiers with a lot of like CIS checklists, all that kind of stuff, and determining whether I want a user to access all of our AWS instances if they are not encrypted, right? So that's sort of why I'm trying to like explain to you the ideas behind making sure the device is checking in and the OS is up to date, because eventually a user will lose access if they aren't up to date, and that's a little bit more forceful, and it's coming. So. Now, I have these tools, and I want to see numbers about how they're working and see if people are doing anything about them, right? Especially the notification. Are they actually updating? So we wanted a tool that was a little bit more visual to see all these numbers all in a glance, right? So GSF was born. And GSF, I won't say it out loud. I don't want to swear. It's a Ruby on Rails app, and it's homegrown. One of our IT specialists had a pet project for making something and solving a problem, And now both the IT team and the security team use it. The IT team uses it for repairs. We do in-house repairs, our stock room, writing documentation, everything under the sun. It's a lot of stuff here. Security uses it for reports and audits, and we actually have all the reports and audits sent to Slack on a weekly basis so we can monitor those numbers as well, see if we need to get a little bit more hands-on. And one of the reports is like this. I've removed the numbers. I'm sorry, but I had to. And it's just standard information about security or the operating system or maybe even maintenance if for whatever reason devices aren't checking in. But I did say that we are visual people, and so we have graphs, and we have charts, and it's a beautiful place to be. This is much easier to see, and when you hover over them, actually, it tells you the number as well. It's pretty neat. We use the high charts gem for this as well in the app. It's pretty sweet, and of course, how did we get this information? Well, smart groups through the API. What we did was we relied heavily on the RubyJS gem that Chris Lascelles wrote. Now we have 2 applications at Shopify that both use the RubyJS gem, and it's fantastic. It's an easy way to leverage through a web app. And he's somewhere in this conference, and I highly recommend you go talk to him. I think he's doing an event on Wednesday to talk about RubyJS and do some workshops. Pretty sweet. So I wanted to thank him for that because that makes our lives a lot easier. And as for the IT specialist, well, his name's Merrick, and he works on our team, and if you ask really nicely, maybe he'll open source it. We'll see. But bug him on Mac admins. You'll find him there. On the topic of community, of course, I want to thank Mac admins and Jamf Nation, because really, these kinds of things exist, and you have to search for them, and you have to talk to people, and all the people on these two resources are phenomenal. So I highly recommend, if you're looking to build things, look there first. You don't want to reinvent the wheel. Okay, let's take a breather. I'm talking very fast. It's 4:30. Okay, I covered a lot, how we onboard, security at Shopify, where we're starting, where we're going. Showed you some tools that we use for our fleet to stay managed and up to date. But now I promised you to tell you a story. Some critics say it's full of excitement and international intrigue. Some even say it's a real tour de force. I know, pretty bold claims, but you know, it keeps you here, right? And it all centers around a stolen laptop. Yeah. Liam Neeson's playing me in this story, just so you know. So just remember that in your head. So let's get into it. On a beautiful Friday evening at our Waterloo office. Are you jealous again? So great. It's a distillery. A new employee, we'll call her Jane, just finished her first week of onboarding. So she shut down her laptop, packed it up in her new Shopify backpack. No big deal. And she drove home for the weekend. But she decided that she wanted to get some groceries, so she stopped, put her stuff in her car. And when she got back, her car had been broken into, and her laptop was stolen. That sucks. Yeah, it's rough. Who doesn't like space gray? So, good thing that she went through our onboarding, right? She had a couple things under her belt that she could have done, and she did them. First of all, she sent a message with @GoneMissing in our Slack, which is a Slack bot response that pings anybody that can do something about this, which is, of course, our IT team. And me, because I can't get rid of it. So the first thing we do, send a lock wipe command, right? But it was shut down, so the likelihood of that actually doing anything is pretty slim. It was in pending limbo. But we did reset her accounts. We reset her sign-in cookies on G Suite, on Okta, on everything. She was really, there was nothing much on that laptop. She even opened a police report online to tell them it was stolen, where it was stolen, all that. She was good to go. So we confirmed the laptop was encrypted. She told us it was a very strong password. I believe my users, okay, when they tell me that. So the data was safe. It was just too bad that it was a brand new piece of hardware, right? It was a 2017 Touch Bar MacBook Pro. And knowing what I knew, I kind of had a thought to myself that I should probably try to get it back or see if I can or do something interesting. So I decided to build a honeypot for recovering this laptop back, relying on DEP, of course. So I created a pre-stage with the username stolen. Pretty straightforward. I also created a smart group to tell me if a new enrollment came in with that username. And I had a choice here, right? And you're all probably thinking about it. If this pre-stage actually completed, the laptop would re-enroll, and it would get locked or wiped because that command is pending. I would never see it again. But like I said, her accounts were reset. There was nothing locally stored on the laptop. It was her first week at Shopify. We were pretty much in the clear. And I thought to myself, maybe I could find a way to recover it and have a workflow set up in case a really bad situation happened, like, let's say, a break-in or whatever. So that's what I decided to do. I revoked the lock and wipe command with a big risk, and I did my risk assessment. And I waited. I waited and waited. Weeks went by, and on a fateful day finally came in where I wasn't checking my email, and one of our IT specialists told me, hey, did you know this checked in with a different user? And I looked at it, and it was my laptop. It had finally come in. I was so happy. You have no idea. This was me. I was laughing. It was great. But now what? What do I do in this situation now that it's re-enrolled? I have some information. The username was definitely different. It looked like a first and a last name. So the first thing I checked was it an employee? It was not. There was no more Shopify encryption on it. We didn't have a key. It truly had been wiped and was being used by somebody outside of Shopify, right? So I needed a tool to get more information so that maybe I can broaden the police report that I had to get this back. So I decided to use Prey. So Prey is an anti-theft solution. First found out about it when we recovered a laptop at my previous company. And it's highly intrusive. But in this, as I smile as I say that, but it gives you enough information, especially in a situation like this, where you know it is your asset and you want to get it back. First thing you need to do, of course, is get your laptop enrolled in your account. So I set up a Shopify Prey account, and I needed to silently install Prey on this laptop. Luckily, they give you the tools to do that. So I zipped an installer of Prey, deploying this with a policy, with a little script that had my API key that I was provided by my Prey account. Once I did this, obviously deploying it on check-in, thinking to myself, where is my laptop? Waiting again, and I'm waiting, and it's ridiculous because this whole game is a waiting game. But it did actually check back in, and I got an email that my device was added to my account. Couldn't believe it. This was a beautiful day. And so now, of course, it's added, and you're not really getting that much information about it. This is just truly adding it. It's like adding your laptop to your iCloud, right? I needed to set the device to missing. So the reason I show this button is because a lot of things come with this button. A lot of intrusive information can be pulled from the machine. And actually, just recently, Prey also announced the feature of being able to pull documents off of that laptop. Yeah, I know, what? But it's true. So the first thing we did, of course, was talk to our legal team to say, listen, like this is the point we're at. What do you want us to do? And this is the information that we have. And they wanted us to go for it because, well, guess what? It's still our laptop. So I clicked the big red button, and I started getting reports like this. So, yeah. I was trying to think of a funny image to replace his face with, like maybe a bad guy from Taken, but like nobody would have gotten that reference, so whatever. He's just a blur. So you get a photo, a screenshot, you get SSID names, public IP, geolocationing, and these reports keep coming in. I think more frequently when you're on the paid version of Prey. I believe it's every hour or every half hour. This is enough information to contact the police with. So once we got a few reports, we disabled missing mode because this is just crazy. But at this point, I'm feeling like I have a particular set of skills. Skills I have acquired over the years. I will look for you, whoever you are. I will find you, and I will get my laptop back. Of course, I'm now basing it on information in my Jamf geolocation stuff, right? So saying it's logging in from Mississauga, I added Toronto on the map so you all know what I'm talking about. This is Mississauga. And that was the first place I called. I called the Mississauga Police Department. Gave them everything. I gave them all the information I had over the phone, of course, telling them how epic the story was and everything. But I mentioned that a police report had been opened, and they told me to call London. Not this London. This London. London, Ontario, in Canada. Because that police report was originally opened in London, where it was stolen. Might as well talk to the initial police department that was dealing with it, and they could help me move the case forward. All right, that's fair. Let's do that. So I'm on the phone with London now, and I tell them everything. I pour my heart out, and there's an open police report, but it's one laptop, and they're telling me that, well, it would just be a pain, and like, you know, if this is that Find My Mac kind of stuff, like that's not enough information. No matter what I said, they were just telling me it's not worth their time. I beg to differ. This is a 2017 Touch Bar MacBook Pro, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gig hard drive, whatever. I was still on a 2015, so you could see I was a little bit bitter. So I decided to change my tactic up a little bit because I don't care. I'm going to get this thing back. And maybe they just didn't recognize the kind of evidence I had, especially when they told me about, well, it's like Find My iPhone, Find My Mac. I'm like, okay, all right. I'm going to start emailing. So my first stop, Mississauga. It was checking in from Mississauga. I send them everything in my case, everything. And I'm rushing to do it because finally I have enough that, you know, I'm hopefully going to get somewhere. But I get an email back, and I forgot to check that the last report was actually from Oakville. So they're telling me it's not in their jurisdiction. Yeah, weeks of this. And for you to sort of understand, Toronto's up there, Mississauga's there, Oakville's right there, okay? So that's what I'm dealing with now. And I'm picturing in my head that that laptop's on the line, and like I'm never gonna find somebody to help me with this, but I digress. So they tell me it's Oakville, of course. I email Oakville. And I'm on the right track now. Got a tactic that's working. Literally a zipped file of every piece of evidence that I have. And I'm carrying forward with my plan. I actually get an email back, which made my day. I'm reviewing this case with the intention of recovering the stolen laptop through the use of judicial authorizations and other words that I don't know what they meant. But the guy was excited, and I was going to get this thing back. He was like, I'm going to press charges, and oh, it got out of hand. But I went back and forth with him a bit, gave him some more information. He was actually really curious about how I was able to get all the information that I did, and was like, okay, well, I'm going to take you seriously. Good. So now, of course, I'm waiting again, because he's going to get in contact with whoever has it, hopefully, and give me some more information. But I actually got an email back, actually not very long afterwards, and he contacted the person. It was purchased on Kijiji. For those of you who don't know what Kijiji is, it's like Craigslist. So it's Canada's Craigslist. We have something different. I don't know. But it was pretty sweet. Like, the guy was really nice, and he had no idea. And funny enough, the previous case that I dealt with at our previous company was sort of the same lines. Something was sold. Somebody, unsuspecting victim, bought it. It happens, right? He said he'll return it, which is fantastic. Okay, cool. After it gets back from China. What? Are you kidding me? Okay. Why is it in China? Well, his wife took it on vacation. This thing has gone further than I have. So they told me it's going to be 2 weeks because it is having a vacation in China. Not in those words, but that's what I'm picturing in my head. And that we'll get it back afterwards. And so I'm already prepped with a box with a prepaid label. I'm like, all right, just tell me where to send it. But I got a message back, and I got it. I recovered it. And it arrived on our doorstep. We couldn't be happier. Just the laptop, not the dog. That's my dog. I put him in everything. And yeah, we got it back. So there's some good people out there, right? And there's some intense detectives out there. And that was like, it was a great workflow to go through, even though it took a while. But of course, with that comes a retrospective. It was a fun story. Maybe less epic than I made it sound, whatever. But It was a learning experience and a patience experiment, and overall I don't regret running it because it taught me a lot about the things outside of Shopify, like the police departments and what to do in these situations. But of course, I know that this situation was a special snowflake. We evaluated the risk on this specific laptop, and we did that before attempting anything. And we really care about the data, right? So we know that these laptops hold the keys to the kingdom, and if I was wrong in thinking that it was completely empty, I would have lost data, right? So the likelihood of running this specific scenario on one laptop, again, is pretty slim, right? But we have a workflow in our back pocket. The reason I bring this up is because there's different sizes of organizations where maybe one laptop means a lot. Maybe one laptop is a big asset that you want to recover, and you sort of have a chance with this, right? Ultimately, I think for us, we'll still rely on pre-stages for stolen devices, but we will just allow that lock wipe to complete so we know it's done and over with. Regardless, I think this is the type of situation that we learn and grow from and build a stronger foundation for device management. And yeah, that's really what I really have to say about it. I think we have a ways to go and lots of tools to build, and this was just an introduction into our world. We have Splash Buddy that we really want to build out and make better and be part of the community to grow it and make it pretty and all that fun stuff. We're working towards our device trust and identity aspects of Beyond Corp, and we're looking at solutions for a lot of things that are still in the works for a lot of companies. And of course, alongside all of that, we want to maintain our open culture, and that's forefront of our mind, whether it comes to with security or device management or anything. And finally, make commerce better for everyone. So with that, I just want to say thank you for attending. I thought there was going to be 2 people in here, so that makes me happy. If you have any questions, I'm on Mac admin Slack. That's not Sandherd, it's driving me nuts. But please ping me anytime. I'm always around for questions or whatever, sharing information. So. Yes.
I'm sorry. Just an information question. Do you have how many employees, and do you use a directory service that you?
We don't have a directory service at Shopify. So that's something that we're trying to solve by not having a directory service at Shopify. So we use Okta. Yeah, we use Okta, and we hope that we can somehow integrate Okta, maybe with Nomad, to be able to have a directory for our devices and not have that a manual process, which it is right now. So.
Okay. By the way, I wasn't saying that you should have a directory service.
Yes.
I was just asking. Okay.
Yes.
It looks like we have one more question up front, and then I think we'll have 2 more questions, and then we'll have to wrap up just due to time.
Where's the one up front?
Yeah, right here. Oh.
Hi. Part of it was about directory services, and you already answered that. Second is your environment all Mac? Do you not have any Windows PCs?
No. So we have a very small subset of desktops that are Windows. There are VR machines, but we have a strict mandate on you don't access Shopify accounts on those laptops or desktops. They're just used for designing, developing, all that kind of stuff. So believe it or not, that's what we mandated because there's only like 5 of them. So we are very Mac heavy. I think, fully Mac heavy on our environment.
And as far as the security on the Mac is concerned, from login, file vault, you already mentioned, password policies and stuff. Is that also?
No password policy.
No password policy.
No, like I said, and this might change one day, but I still find it too annoying to deploy a configuration profile that blocks people from changing, let's say, their screensaver, timeout, whatever. That's a security thing, sure. But we cover it more on the understanding and learning side of things. And we're trying to base that on if you understand why you need to do these things, you're going to do them without us forcing you. And that helps in our culture. Whether that's going to work long term, I can't tell you, but it's working right now. And you would be surprised that we have a security channel in Slack, and you would be surprised at how many people understand when there's a phishing email or when there's something that's going on. And they're sharing with us articles we haven't even read yet because they're very conscious of that. So it's difficult as we grow because that might change, and I would eventually like to, focus more on configurations or something, but I still think that they're a bit too intrusive, so.
Hi.
Hey.
Did you see the missing laptop when it was in China, or did the Great Firewall block it?
So I had actually disabled the missing mode, so I never got new, reports on it. So, but I didn't believe it at first because I'm like, are you joking? Like that sounds like a lie. But then I looked at Jamf, like RJSS, and it was saying like geolocations Beijing, and I'm like, oh, come on. So I didn't enable it again because at that point I was starting to think, sure, it's in China. Like the likelihood of I'm getting it back is pretty slim. I might just lock and wipe it if I don't hear back in 2 weeks, which was my backup plan basically. So I didn't even bother, but I highly doubt I would have seen it.
All right, thank you so much, Diana. That was excellent.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.